Mr. President, as we have heard yet again, the situation in Gaza is a catastrophe of unprecedented magnitude. Nowhere in the world has international law been trampled with such brazen impunity as in the occupied Palestine by Israel, the occupying power. One aspect of this harrowing reality is illustrated by the recent report of the High Commissioner for Human Rights on attacks against healthcare infrastructure in Gaza. It lays bare a truth we cannot afford to ignore, as you also explained at length in your statement, Mr. President. Between October 2023 and June 2024, at least 136 strikes were carried out on 27 hospitals and 12 other medical facilities. Over 500 healthcare workers lost their lives. By June, 22 of Gaza's 38 hospitals were rendered non-functional, leaving the healthcare system on the verge of collapse. The brutal destruction of Kamal Adwan Hospital, the last operational major facility in northern Gaza, is an atrocity that shocks the conscience of humanity. The deliberate targeting of hospitals, medical personnel, patients, and wounded defies every principle of humanitarian law and has no justification whatsoever. Not just condemnation, there must be accountability for these crimes. Mr. President, for over 14 months now, the Palestinian people have endured an unrelenting assault on their lives, rights, and dignity. Over 45,000 Palestinians have been killed, more than half of them women and children. Over 90% of 2.1 million population of Gaza are displaced, with around 160,000 housing units destroyed. Almost the entire population has been rendered homeless. The scale of this genocidal campaign is staggering. Its intent unmistakable. Gaza's homes, schools, hospitals, and even its cultural heritage lay in ruins. Even the UN and its personnel have not been spared. This is not a war. It is a campaign of dispossession, ethnic cleansing, and annihilation. The indiscriminate bombing of civilians and the systematic destruction of critical infrastructure are not isolated incidents. These are calculated acts aimed at erasing an entire people from their homeland. Mr. President, for decades, this Council has passed resolutions. The International Court of Justice has issued rulings, and the world has cried out for justice. Yet this Council is inexplicably paralyzed, undermining its own authority and credibility in the process. It is a pivotal moment for the Council to take immediate and decisive actions, and we are thinking these should be on the following lines. Ceasefire now. The Council must demand and put in place an immediate and unconditional ceasefire to halt the bloodshed and destruction in Gaza. Lift the blockade. The inhuman blockade of Gaza must be lifted without delay. Food, medical supplies, and humanitarian aid must flow freely to those in desperate need. Demand accountability. Justice must be served. Independent and transparent investigations into the targeting of medical infrastructure and other war crimes must ensure that perpetrators are held to account. Impunity must end. Establish safe corridors. Civilians must be protected. Safe and secure humanitarian corridors must be created to allow people to access life-saving care. Eventual reconstruction efforts must also prioritize rebuilding Gaza's shattered healthcare system. Revive the two-state solution. A political horizon is imperative for peace, a process to realize the two-state solution based on relevant UN resolutions, an end to occupation, enabling the Palestinian people to exercise their right to self-determination, and the establishment of a sovereign, independent, and contiguous Palestinian state along pre-1967 borders with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. Grant Palestine full membership. Palestine must be recognized as a full member of the United Nations. This will not just be a symbolic gesture in our view. It is a moral imperative to secure the irreversibility of the two-state solution. Mr. President, we stand at a defining moment in history. The entire world is watching. Will this Council shoulder its responsibility, or will it continue to turn a blind eye to the tragedy unfolding before us? Silence is complicity, as you said, and I would add that it amounts to moral bankruptcy. Can we finally come together to defend and uphold universal respect for the UN Charter principles and international law? I think this is the question before us. The Palestinian people look to this Council for hope, for justice, for the promise of peace. We must not fail them. The bloodshed in Gaza must end. The relentless suffering of innocent men, women, and children must cease. Let us cross the divide. Let us unite in the pursuit of peace, grounded in justice, human dignity, and international legitimacy. Let us give meaning to the promise that we made, never again. Silence is complicity, as you said, and I would add that it amounts to moral bankruptcy. Can we finally come together to defend and uphold universal respect for the UN Charter principles and international law? I think this is the question before us. The Palestinian people look to this Council for hope, for justice, for the promise of peace. We must not fail them. The bloodshed in Gaza must end. The relentless suffering of innocent men, women, and children must cease. Let us cross the divide. Let us unite in the pursuit of peace, grounded in justice, human dignity, and international legitimacy. Let us give meaning to the promise that we made, never again. Let us prove the skeptics wrong. Let us act now. I thank you.